everyone, and welcome to another episode of Communications. Today we're talking about depression and anxiety, especially in relation to dealing with all this social distancing and COVID. Tonight with me I have Ravyn, the lovely wife of Jay from Nevermore Tavern, and the always outstanding and beautiful Shannon Q.
Hi. That's a lot to live up to. Thanks. I feel neither right now. I'll do my best. I feel adequate and dowdy currently, but I'll do my best.
I apologize if I put you all on edge.
No, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
My brain is still half asleep. I apologize, people. I've had
it's super early for you.
It's what happens. My sleeping. One of those wonderful things about us being all locked up at the moment is my sleeping patterns are completely out the window. Which I'm pretty sure anybody who's actually under lockdown. I know that you're still working, Ravyn, so it's probably not as bad for you. But
yeah. Me too.
But yeah, for me, I'll do stupid things like work on programming projects until I used to do stuff like this before, but I work on some projects till like 2 a.m. in the morning and then sleep until afternoon.
Wow. Oh gosh.
Benefits of having a daughter who's in her early 20s, because even though she suffers from chronic depression and social anxiety, and to the point where she normally finds it really hard to leave the house anyway, but given this, she is absolutely terrified of getting it, so even taking the dog outside for a walk is something that she's really reluctant to do.
Oh, what a shame.
Which sort of highlights the point of how, like, if you're somebody who's trying to cope with their depression and anxiety, having this extra thing where you would think that because you're somebody who wants to be inside and wants to be away from people, being told you have to do that would be a good thing, but it's not, because it's enabling for your depression and your anxieties, which is actually going to make them worse over time.
Yeah. Any steps you've made to improve, you're going to backslide. It's a constant thing. It isn't something that goes away. It gets better.
Oh,
yeah.
Hang on, we have some noise apparently.
Oh, is it me?
No, apparently it's me. So I have no idea what that is. Hang on a second. All right. What's up with my mic?
What is line noise?
Yeah.
I'll mute myself to see if it's...
I'm not hearing it in the stream. Are you guys actually hearing noise from me?
I muted myself for a while, so we'll know if it was me.
Hey, I'm going to switch headphones.
It sounds okay on my end.
Hello. Okay.
Maybe.
Okay, I've got a very low volume apparently. Is that any better, chat?
Let us know. Lots of thumbs ups.
Yeah.
Or thumbs downs.
I'll shift this
it's me.
closer.
Anytime I go on a stream, there has to be sound issues. It's like this.
I'm just glad I noticed it, because I was sort of on a roll there in the train of thought, and I just glanced across at the chat and go, oh, okay. So Kate says that's better. Okay, awesome. Hi to everyone in the chat. Hi Kate. Hi Mark. Geo Sam, obviously Jay, who's there supporting Ravyn. Paul, hi.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, who's that guy? Oh. I've never seen a Paul before.
I bet he's cute.
We know he is. We've seen pictures.
It's cute.
Hearing poker music. I don't know why you're hearing poker music.
That's funny.
Dear. That's brilliant. Yeah, so it does concern me that over the time frame that we will be social isolating, that for her it's going to mean a lot of steps backwards in her growth in dealing with her depression and her anxiety. Even to the point that because we're socially distancing, her actually getting appointments with therapists and that has been put on hold because they're not wanting to see anybody they don't have to, and as far as they're concerned, she's not a threat to herself. She just doesn't cope with these things because she's not suicidal and that, so she's not important enough to go and have appointments. So,
isn't it awful that they have to prioritize like that now?
I get why they do, but yes, it's a little frustrating. But we also have
there's no alternatives provided. Like, do you guys not have online therapy alternatives? We do here in Canada.
I think I actually explained this to Ravyn in a private chat, but I will to the people on here. The person Kylie was seeing previously resigned from the position they were in at the group that she was seeing, so she lost a therapist basically.
Oh God!
She's being assigned a new person, which is not the best anyway, because when you suffer from social anxiety and depression, you don't want to have to deal with new people all the time.
Yeah, you need to build a rapport and a trust in order to be able to benefit.
Yeah. Okay, so that wasn't great anyway. But because this happened over that same time frame, of course, they haven't assigned her a new person, and they don't want her to get to know a new person via video chat.
Oh, what they did, they shouldn't really make that choice for her right now. I mean, I understand that that's not optimal, but it's the only viable alternative currently.
But fortunately,
that's frustrating.
Fortunately, she's all right. One of the things we decided last year to do for her was, I already had a pet dog, but he's mostly an outside dog because he's a Ridgeback Labrador cross, so he's enormous. And having him as an indoor dog is ridiculous. She picked out a new dog for herself, a Cavalier Cross. So, unfortunately, instead of being the nice little one of the thing, he ended up being the biggest one. He's 20 kilos worth of Cavalier, which is a big Cavalier, and he's not fat. He's all just stocky and tall. But he has been brilliant for her. He frustrates her too, because she's learning that whole thing of being a parent, because she's doing most of the training and everything with him. So she's learning that whole thing of, you've got this animal or this young child, because it's still like a child in some senses, and you're gonna have to deal with all the issues and everything, like finding your stuff and destroying it.
Yeah, you don't get to make your own itinerary when you're responsible for another living thing.
That's right. So,
that can't be responsible for itself.
It's made her want to get out of the house and go for drives and go to parks and walk the dog and stuff, and all of that has had to stop. But at least still within the house, she started taking him out the back to play with the bigger dog, and he's enjoying that. The two dogs get along quite well and they play, and that's helping her still. So. But, you'd think that if you're in the situation where you're the kind of person who would rather be inside, you'd rather be away from people, being told you have to would be beneficial, but it's not. It really isn't.
No. Yeah. Forced isolation is not a viable alternative for somebody who has a preference for being alone. But it's not at all a good alternative, because what you want is for somebody who is in that situation to come to a position where they're more comfortable going out and engaging, and they find a way to balance their life so that they can have the alone time they need to recover and, regenerate from how taxing social interactions in general anxiety can be when you go out into the world. Like, you do need that recovery time, and you need to figure out viable ways in order to make that beneficial for you, and what your strategy is going to be when you do have that recovery time. But then you want to be able to get back out there, and so that you can create a balance that mitigates the mental health. Because staying in isolation consistently isn't a good, even if that's what you do, you're doing it as a coping mechanism. You don't want to be forced into your coping mechanism. That's a bad place to be, with no escape from your coping mechanism. That's not a good, like, you put yourself there not out of a desire to be there. You're there because you feel as though you have no other alternative in order to protect yourself. And now you're forced into a position where you are when you're in your worst state of mind is where you're forced to be consistently.
You're actually having,
that's not great.
You're having now, instead of the authority figures trying to give you strength to break down those barriers that are around you, you're having them tell you to put them up,
or at least find ways to. I can see how it would be perceived that way, because you are forced into this situation. And I don't think that there'd be a lot of mental health strategies that would have been prepared for a circumstance like this, given people that already have mental health struggles, that are now in isolation with other people or alone, to say to them, oh, okay, well, I know you're forced into this situation, you don't want to be there, and all of the steps that we've put into place in order to, get you into a more beneficial and healthy routine, like life routine, so that you can have those coping strategies. I know we have to strip those all away. All of those steps aren't going to happen anymore. But here's where we are. How do we keep you healthy so that when these are released, you don't have to start back at square one? And you can still find a way to be okay now. That would be hard, especially when you don't have access to a therapist. I hope your daughter's okay.
She's doing okay at the moment, but I am concerned for her over the long term as this drags out.
Yeah.
Because this isn't. I mean, anyone who thinks we're suddenly going to go back to the way we were is deluding themselves. This is not what's going to happen. That we have got at least a few more months of this, and then a slow regression back into a normal society. It's going to take a long time to come out of this. Despite what businesses and some government officials think we should be doing, they are wrong. Because the risk here that lifting ourselves over that reinfection rate, we haven't even got down to the point where we've got the thing under control yet. But if we go back to socially interacting, we are going to lift ourselves instantly above that threshold rate, and it just expands out from there. The viruses have exponential growth, and this one's particularly bad.
Yeah. And people look at the statistics too, and they're like, oh, well, it's not really growing like they thought it would. Yeah, because most of us have been doing what we're supposed to do. And locked ourselves in the house as much as we can, as is allowable based on, us having to, do essential jobs and get food and things like that. So yeah, that's just a demonstration that to whatever degree you would measure success, we're at least being partially successful. The alternative is we didn't do any of this, and the growth rates that we're still seeing are ridiculous. Why would you want that? Why would you people just don't understand how numbers work sometimes, I think.
And I don't think they actually understand why we are social distancing. The reality is 80% of people are going to get this. That even with social distancing, this is still going to happen. 80% of people are going to catch this virus and are going to get sick. And of those, 5% of them are going to die because they're going to be susceptible to it. There are going to be lots of people that all of us know who die from this. And that's a horrible thing to think about, especially when we're already coping with our depressions and stuff like that. But the whole reason for social distancing isn't to lower that 80% figure. It's to give the health authorities a chance to be able to deal and save as many of the people as they can. Because
so they're not overwhelmed.
Because they will become overwhelmed if we don't socially distance. And what you see in New York, where they've dug mass graves, is going to happen everywhere.
They dug mass graves in New York?
They dug mass graves in New York.
New York has an island dedicated to homeless or potter's graves. That's where the mass graves are. It's an island. It's a cemetery. But that's where any unclaimed people they don't know go there.
Yeah,
Oh my
they've
God.
had bulldozers out there, and they've just dug great big long trenches and are putting coffins in there too deep.
They're
Wow.
properly labeling. But yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow.
they are labeling who they are. So I guess if family claimed later, they could dig back up and rebury. But yeah, I doubt that's going to happen. This is going to be, for some areas, this is going to be the thing that happens. I think a lot of people aren't actually understanding the kind of situation we're in. That we haven't seen anything like this really since the Spanish flu.
Right.
So we are looking down the barrel of a major catastrophe for us as a species. This might give us a bit of a heads up to what we're doing to the planet as far as climate change goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's going to be a lot of, at the end of it, we're probably looking at a 4 to 5% of our population dying from this, and 80% of us definitely getting it. That's a lot of people dying. I mean, the flu claims, in the mainland US, about 20,000 people a year from flu symptoms, and COVID has basically already reached that in a couple of months.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
This is what we're looking at. We're looking at something quite dramatic here, and part of the problem you guys have over there in the US is that different states have responded very, very differently, and some states haven't really locked down at all, which is actually making it worse.
In Michigan is the third worst in the country. Our governor's locked down a lot, but everybody's resisting it. Well, not everybody, that's an exaggeration, but so many people are resisting it. And that's a problem. It's a suggestion. Well, then why do I have to? It's not really a suggestion. There are fines, there's additional charges. People ignore it.
So I think people feel this sense of comfort, right? Because they're in their house, they don't have it, they don't yet know anybody who's sick potentially, so they just think to themselves, what's the big deal? I don't see it, it's not in my face, I don't have to worry about it. It's just a hypothetical.
You have it without symptoms, and it's allergy season. Who's to say that you have allergies?
Yeah.
Or
talking of that,
I see that all the time.
I sneezed in the supermarket the other day, and everybody looked at me.
I can't even go to the supermarket. So I've been on 100% lockdown, zero contact for a little over a month now. So aside from my son, who's locked in here with me, we have zero contact with other human people. So the only way I get my groceries is I order them online, and I arrange a pickup time, and I pop my trunk, and they put them directly in my trunk, and I take them home, because my son has had croup 28 times and is asthmatic and anemic and has allergies, and I have multiple sclerosis and asthma. Yep. So we can't get it.
No, you can't risk it.
We can't. We can't get it.
I mean, technically, I probably shouldn't go shopping because I have pernicious anemia. But somebody has to go and do shopping, and Kylie wouldn't because of her depression and anxiety. Yeah. And aside from that, she's a chronic asthmatic as well, so that's worse. And my brother, who shares the house with us, he recently had surgery that has put him in the high category of risk. So it leaves me as being the person who has to go and do the shopping. And my anemia is manageable with my medication. But if I ended up in the position that medication was harder to get because of this, then I'm in a stuck position. So
right. So that's a shame that they don't have trunk drop where you are, because it's what's saving my life. Really, that and really good friends that I'll be like, they didn't have any toilet paper for the trunk drop or whatever, and I'll just go out on my deck. I'll get a text, go on your deck. They'll have left it there for me.
They have pickup. They have click and collect here for some of the supermarkets and
good
deliveries. But since it started, they've made it that they're only providing those services to the people who really need them.
How do they decide that though? How would they?
Basically, you need a letter from your doctor.
Oh, okay.
That this is a requirement for you. So I wouldn't be able to get one of those at the moment for myself. So I still have to go out. But I probably could.
Oh, that's a shame.
I could if I pushed it, I guess. But at the moment, because my condition's managed, it's fine. And I mean, really, as long as you're careful, you should be okay. Like I said, 80% of us are going to get it anyway, so the chances are I'm going to catch it if I haven't already had it. Because that was the thing. Early on, I got sick when all the stuff went down, and they didn't test me because they said, "Oh, you're not too bad, so just isolate and get over it." So I did, but I may have already had it, and I don't even know. So.
Oh Jesus.
My sister was in the hospital with pneumonia when the whole thing started. Her and her husband overnight developed pneumonia. While she was in the hospital, it came to America, or it was said that it came like just somewhere during that time. And I wondered if they had it because she's never had that. She doesn't get sick, and all of a sudden they both overnight had pneumonia. She almost died.
Damn.
But there's no way to test for it after the fact, and at the time they weren't testing for it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, everything's so scary. I wish that you could just I wish they just had at-home tests where we could all just pop a test a day and just breathe into a tube and it go beep, no, you're good. Beep, no, you haven't.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it? But, I mean, the actual test itself is pretty horrific because these scrapings from up your nose, yeah. And my niece had to have it done, so she's like, that was not pleasant. I did not enjoy that at all. But she ended up, she actually had an infection, so she was treatable with antibiotics, which was a good thing.
Oh, good. Thank goodness.
So that was good. But I mean, having said that, I say that's good. But if you get it and you don't get it too bad, that's good too, because then you build up an immunity and you help enhance the herd immunity, which at the moment is going to be our way out of this. Is people, oddly enough, people getting it ultimately over a long period of time, so we can treat those people that get it, is actually what's going to protect us from it.
Right, exactly. Because then there'll be herd immunity, so you're less likely to be exposed to somebody who has it if they've already had it because their immune system just killed it before they could transmit it.
And I've already seen anti-vaxxers say even if they make a vaccine, they're not going to take it, and I'm like,
oh, it's because it's not even a virus. It's the fucking 5G towers, Jen. That's why.
That's right.
It's Bill Gates. And that's the reason that we're all on lockdown, too, is so that they can put up the 5G towers and roll it out without anybody there protesting. Didn't you? You clearly don't read the right news. Fake news.
Well, they've been setting fire to the towers, haven't they? So, I'm like, for one thing,
that's crazy to me. How can a tower give you a fucking virus?
On top of that, most of the towers are made out of fucking metal. Why are you setting fire to metal?
Yeah, but they're crazy. It baffles me. I saw somebody saying that this is all just to get us scared enough that they can put the 5G towers out, and then when we all run to get the vaccine, they're going to inject us with a microchip. And none of that was in irony. That was all.
Yeah, they want to inject
that person really believed that. And I was like, how do you get there?
To track you. And you're recording this on your mobile phone that has a GPS tracker in it. You idiot. You absolute idiot.
I saw that on Creationist Conspiracy Cast today was talking about that. Because, that's the same guy. It's like, you're literally holding a tracker in your hand to talk about how crazy this is. Do you have any idea? I can remember the day that I realized that Google Maps traps everywhere that I go. I remember the day because I was looking for something. I was trying to find something on Google Maps, and I was like, what the hell am I looking at? And it was everywhere I'd been. It was and then I realized it broke down by day on Google Maps. I was like, oh, that's the day I was in Texas. Oh, there I was. I was over there. So it's already happening.
Yeah.
We don't need a microchip.
Did you want to say something then, Ravyn? Because you've kind of put your hand up.
No, Jay wanted me to do that. I don't know why. He just said do that. It's like, all right, if you insist. Hey, wait a second.
He's trying to make sure that I'm paying attention. He wants me to get you to describe your social anxiety. and how bad it is.
Yeah. He wants me to talk.
Well, come on, Ravyn. Well, do you want me to I've talked about my daughters. Do you want me to talk about mine first, and that might help you?
I don't know if it'll help at all. I don't. Social anxiety is fun. I don't want to talk about myself, but then that's why I'm here. My niece has social anxiety. She's 13. She's really, really bad. And a month or so ago, she tried to kill herself.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, something, you can't just, you assume social anxiety is just, oh, I'm uncomfortable going outside. I'm uncomfortable around people. And that's not social anxiety. It's a fear. It's a phobia. It makes you're around people and you can see them making faces, laughing at you. You can hear them say things. That's not happening. None of that's happening. It's all part of the phobia. It's really easy to make things up in your head that aren't there.
Oh, yeah.
It's when you're young, when you're like 13 years old, I mean, that was really scary for me. And she's worse than I ever was. So I can imagine I feel it's important for people to understand that social anxiety is so much more than what they think it is. You can't just say, just get out there, just go make friends. My mom always told me that. And then just go out there and talk to somebody, you'll make friends. I was like, oh, that's not going to happen. I stayed in the house. I skipped school for at least a month. Nobody noticed.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's probably because each failed attempt at making a social connection is just affirmation that what you're believing about your ability to interact socially is correct, and that it feeds the misperceptions. So it would be a self-fulfilling prophecy anytime that you have a failed attempt. So,
yeah, and I will create those failed attempts too. You think that you have a good conversation, a good relationship with somebody, but in my head, they're annoyed by me. They don't want to hear what I have to say. That's a tough one for me to push through, because when I'm talking, I'm assuming nobody wants to hear what I have to say and I need to shut up.
Oh, please don't.
I'm interested in what you have to say, for the record, so you don't have to worry about that assumption when you're interacting.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you have to say. So if you have that perception from me, it's a misperception. So
yeah,
just to bring that into your awareness during our interactions, if that helps you.
Yeah, it helps. And I understand. I mean, for the most part, like my job, when you talk about you're stuck here, but I go out and I work, I'm in an office by myself all day. And that was the best thing for me. I work in a big supermarket kind of store, similar to Walmart. But I handle all the money in the store. So I'm all by myself. And it works well, but so that I get these mini interactions with people. And that's good for me, because then I don't have enough time to go, I'm probably annoying them. It's still going to happen, but they're mini interactions, and it helps. So it did when I started there. I was a cashier, and that helped too. It was scary at first, but I encourage people, if you have a social anxiety and you think going out and being something like a cashier, something where you're with people will be bad, it's not. Because you do have to get out there, experience, desensitize. It's just really hard.
It's like having a 200, 300, or 400 interaction practice rounds a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and then one bad customer, just have one customer who thinks that everything you did was the stupidest thing, which you're always going to have, and then it backslides you. So there is a downfall.
Yeah.
It's tied to that whole thing that the little voice in your head that everybody has, but the little voice in your head when you've got social anxiety is always telling you that these people don't want to listen to you. These people aren't your friends. These people don't want to socially interact with you, and these people hate you.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, and-
very, very frustrating. And it takes a long time to work out ways to deal with that little voice that pisses you off.
Yeah, just walking down the street and you're like, just shut up. You know?
Did that person look at me? What's wrong with me?
Yeah. Oh, I have had days where I wanted to walk up to somebody and go, what's your problem? And they didn't do anything. It was in my head, you know. At least I stopped myself.
And sometimes a little catharsis is fun, though. Every once in a while, we can all just lose our shit on a stranger. Just
yeah, well, I mean, it's true though. With the social anxiety, it's kind of weird because you think that you always think that the person with social anxiety is always going to be shrinking violet, but they're not. Because of the way your brain interacts to what's happening, sometimes you can be the biggest asshole on the block. And it's just because you are perceiving something coming in your direction that isn't true. And it's making you react badly. And, I mean, I've done it a few times. I've done it very, very visibly a few times. And it's one of those things. If something triggers the way that... whatever a trigger mechanism is for your social anxiety... because I'm not like it all the time, so I can get triggered into it. And that's mostly because I've learned coping mechanisms for dealing with my social anxiety. But if I'm triggered by something, one of those things for me is if I get a feeling of rejection. And it doesn't have to be a real sense of rejection. It's like something has happened and I've accidentally been excluded, or I've somebody just forgot about me or whatever else, and it just feels like, oh, I've been rejected. Now that can be a major trigger for me to just go into this thing of, fuck, this person hates me, now I'm angry. Because people have rejected me. And it's not a good thing to happen. And I know a lot of it stems from stuff as a kid, from bullying and stuff like that, because of me being intersexed, because being an intersex person is very visible. Unlike just being if I'd just been a trans kid who'd been hiding it, it probably would have been a lot better. But because I was intersex and that was visible, it's harder. And then you get the bullying that goes with it, and that made me feel just rejection on and off all throughout my teenage years, especially. Yeah. So that fed the social anxiety, and that's why those are triggering mechanisms for me. I know how this all works. It doesn't necessarily make it any easier to deal with it when it happens, because you're not thinking logically when you get a triggering system. You just react, and it's not the best way to be. So.
Yeah, I know. For me, there's triggers all the time because I make it up in my head. So there's always a trigger. Yeah, and the social anxiety is, well, you might have. I don't know, I wasn't a shy little kid, but it's a lot of things that happened as a kid. Not everybody comes out of it the same way. And a lot of bullying, and my mom that's how she disciplined, was demeaning, and everything you did was stupid. And so you're afraid to do anything.
It destroys your self-confidence.
Yeah.
So do you both feel like you maybe have misattribute a fair amount, or at least that's what I'm hearing, is that you feel like you both misattribute people's intentions towards you and sometimes react in either.
Sometimes, Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Well,
not all the time. Sorry, Ravyn.
Oh, that's okay. There's the delay. An example would be walking half a block to the store, and I can't do it because there's people on the street on the way, and everybody I run across or I come across is looking at me and laughing at me and like whispering to the person next to them. I visibly see them doing that, but that can't possibly be true.
Right.
That is the bad thing about it, is because if it's so bad, then there's hallucinations that come along with it.
Yeah, I don't even think it's necessarily hallucinations. It's false positives. So you're finally attuned to being, because it's something that you're protecting yourself from, to being like hyper perceptive to things that might look like that trigger. So somebody, you know, making a snide face to the person next to them may be them making a snide face about you, when really they may not even be aware of your presence in their purview.
Or in a grocery store and there's somebody halfway across the store, can't even see you, but they're laughing. They must be laughing at me.
Right.
You know, yeah.
So have you ever asked yourself, you know, what the area would look like were people not aware of you, or if the circumstances were different, or do you have another coping mechanism that helps get you through?
I learned, like, I'm a lot better now than I used to be, because I've figured out that I'm making it up, that it's all in my head.
Okay.
And so I'm able to tell myself that's stupid. You know, it's like, why would that person care about you? They don't even, and there's nothing wrong with the way I look or, you know, whatever. I'm being stupid. And that helps quite a bit.
Oddly enough, that self-depreciation often helps immensely. It's like, no, you're being a fucking idiot. And sometimes you just have to say it to yourself, I'm being a fucking idiot.
Well, if that's what works for you, so you can have irrational thoughts and be very cognitively astute. Like, everybody has irrational thoughts. Being in an irrational thought pattern is not something that just dumb people do. It's something everybody does to a certain degree, and a lot of the times, actually, people who are of above average intellect tend to get in those pattern cycles more easily because their brains are more easily I guess those tracks in your brain are like, they fire super quickly. So you're more liable to be able to get into a pattern like that because you're overthinking. You're thinking about all of the variables in your environment simultaneously, as opposed to not necessarily even being aware of them. You become hyper aware of them and go through an interpretation standard in your head in order to figure out how to process them. So that's actually a sign in a lot of ways of misplaced intellectual acuity, that, you know, you could be using that acuity elsewhere. You're burning resources, but because of either childhood trauma or misperception or other forms of psychiatric illness, you're utilizing those resources elsewhere. So saying that you're dumb isn't even necessarily the case. It's a misattribution again. Misattributing.
But it's sometimes useful to do that to just snap yourself out of the position that you're in. Say, no,
if it works.
Stupid. Yeah. I've got to be aware that this isn't actually really what's going on. That whole thing of walking through the middle of a supermarket and thinking that everybody you walk past is talking about you. Yeah, I know exactly what that's like, Ravyn, because I have done that. I have done that so many times. And or the thing that I have actually said to somebody in the middle of a supermarket who had this look on their face, what the hell's wrong? What did I do? And they said, what? And then I realized they weren't pulling a face. That was just their concerned thinking face over what they were deciding to buy. And this had absolutely nothing to do with me. And I've just created a conflict between me and this person over nothing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to rename my Twitter account. Created a conflict between me and this person over nothing. New name.
Yeah.
So how are you finding, like, do you find now that you're, like, back to the COVID and the isolation thing and the mental health, now that you guys are inside and going out less, do you find when you do have to go out that it is more intense, or do you find that it's the same intensity as a result?
It's better for whatever reason. I am aware that the majority of people are thinking more about whether or not they're going to be getting in trouble for being out doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, like going to the store. Like me and Jay going to the store at the same time. Should we both be in the store at the same time? So probably other people think the same way. Or you're in the store, you're not wearing a face mask. Mm-hmm. You know, so right now it feels like everybody's more focused on themselves, and I can recognize that at this point in time. So, but there's the part, if I were to go, like I said, half a block to the store, do I really need to go to the store? And am I going to get in trouble? So it's a totally different thing. So it is helping as far as that goes.
You're robbing Peter to pay Paul, though.
Yeah.
I found I've been putting in place a method when I go out, and I only just noticed it the other day because I had to go to the shops the other day, yesterday, that I have been mentally plotting my walking path through the shop well ahead, looking where absolutely everybody is so that I can maintain the distance from them.
Right.
So I've been using up my extra mental capacity, plotting my navigation path through the shop, so I don't have to think about other people.
There you go. Yeah, you're focused. You have a task in hand.
Yeah, I have a task
I wonder if there's
in
any
hand.
part of those strategies you could employ after, like without the acute stress that's applied to the COVID situation. Like, are there portions of those strategies that you could actually like turn into beneficial adaptations that you carry with you after this is over in order to continue that form of progress to get a positive out of it?
I don't know about being focused in such a way that I'm walking in a particular path.
And
actually pre-planning my path. I think that might look a bit strange outside of COVID.
Yeah. But I mean, you've discovered that if you have like a planning strategy that you want to implement, then you're less distracted.
I'm less
so maybe so maybe you could plan where you're going in the store ahead of time. There's small portions that you could plan out.
I generally have less problems in stores these days than I used to. That's mostly because I've gotten better at catching myself before I go down the complete rabbit hole of what's this person thinking about me.
Right.
It is really, and it's really narcissistic in a sense, because it's like, what are they thinking about me? Like, I'm the fucking center of this person's world. It's like,
one thing that helped me, though, in the same vein, is put myself in a mindset where I'm better than everybody else, which I can't always do, but if I can, but usually, like go to the store in my best dress, something like that, then I can deal with it, because now my mindset is, they can't tell me that they're better than me.
My problem with that is it's drawing attention to yourself as well. So I would hate that.
While I was talking, I realized that, but at the time, it doesn't. I could go into the store in a Halloween costume and be perfectly all right,
even if everyone else was.
Yeah.
So is it like visual based then? Is it based on people judging your appearance then?
Yeah, it's visual. It's what people think of. Well, no, because for the most part, when I'm in public, when I'm in the store, when I'm walking down the street, it's the way people judge the way I look.
Right.
Maybe my clothes, maybe, depending on whatever it might be. Unless I'm talking with somebody, then, I'll stop in the middle of what I'm saying, because I'm like, this person doesn't care what I have to say. And then that's the end of what I'm saying. It also doesn't help because my speech might not be as coherent as it should be, because my brain's trying to tell me to shut up. And I'm like, no, I gotta get this out, and it sounds weird. And people look about, what did you say? Like, well,
yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that though. If you're fighting against your inner dialogue telling you, hey, I don't want to do this. Like, your anxiety is saying, okay, we don't like this. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? It becomes really hard to focus on what you're doing when you have that sort of internal conflict going on. So
I don't know if Ravyn has this as well, but have you ever had it where your internal dialogue, that the voice in your head is actually louder than everybody else around you, so you actually can't focus on the conversations that are actually happening?
Oh. Yeah, because, and then you don't know, then now it's even worse because you have no clue what the conversation's about. You missed important stuff. Did I miss something important?
Or was something said about me? Because that's generally where that stupid little voice wants it to go. Was something said about me? I'm sure I'm sure that little voice in the back of my head is a fucking narcissist. I really am, because all it cares about is itself.
Yeah. Well, apparently the little voice in the back of my head is my mom's voice, and I think she was a narcissist. So everything she did was right. You know.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
That's not actually possible. But people like to give you the perception that that's the case, and as soon as somebody tries to give you the perception that that's the case, you should probably avoid them. It's toxicity.
I'm very proud of your husband, Ravyn, because he has to put up with with you. That sounded horrible. I'm sorry, my brain could not stop saying that.
No, you're right. Early on, he said, "I can't make phone calls. I have to see the person's face when I'm talking to him, so I cannot make phone calls." And he needs new teeth. Somebody needs to call the dentist. We don't currently have a dentist because we have new insurance, so we got to go to a different dentist than the one we went to. So you got to call and ask, do you have openings? And, it's like all these different things that make me go, no, you could call, but he works third shift. So when is he supposed to call? But I can't do it. So then he's got to put up with that.
And then online he has to put up with everybody else's anxieties because everyone knows that Jay's wonderful and you can talk to Jay.
You have to listen to me talk for almost an hour and a half too, so there's that. I'm intolerable.
No, you're very
I don't care what other people think, so I've got that going for me. It's the only thing that keeps me going.
You're very tolerable, Shannon. You're very tolerable.
I don't know. Where's Paul?
I don't know. Paul hasn't said anything in the chat for ages. I think he's ignoring us.
Oh, he's likely editing. Paul's a multitasker. He's likely editing whatever his next video is. He's probably working on that currently. He doesn't sleep, and he just works and does video work and parents. That's his life. And listens to me prattle on about bullshit that makes me mad.
Well, that's pretty much perfect, isn't it? If he listens to you prattle on about what makes you go mad.
For me, yeah. He even acts like he's paying attention, so it's wonderful. That's all I need.
You just need a sounding board that can occasionally go, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Usually the same things piss both of us off, though, so that helps. Or the same people generally piss both of us.
Out of question, Shannon, have you ever thrown something at him that he just made him stop what he was doing and say something like, oh, fuck?
I don't know. I've thrown lots of things at him that made him stop and demonstrate that he's interested or surprised by what I said and wanted to hear more about it. But I don't think he's ever said, "Aw, fuck." Well, I mean, he has said, "Aw, fuck," but but he's thrown stuff at me recently. Like when he told me that him and Eric Hovind were going to talk, I was like, "What did you just say?"
That was nuts.
And he told me that he told me he was going to talk to somebody else today, and I was like, "What?" But I can't say anything.
Oh, that Eric Hovind thing was nuts. I was like, "What?"
Wasn't it great? It was great.
Why would he even agree to that?
He did. Well, it wasn't even really an agreed to thing. Eric Hovind gives an online course, and it's not usually online. It's usually in person, but because of COVID, it was online. So Paul signed up for it because he was like, "Hey, I'm constantly doing videos about this stuff. I should see what it's about." And Eric was kind of lamenting that, it was going to be maybe difficult to get atheists in for the discussion portion. And they usually get the students to do the discussion. And Paul was like, "Oh, well, I'll do it." And he was like, "Well, if you're going to do it, we should talk." And Paul was like, "All right, if I can record, let's do it." And Eric was all about putting the conversation out there. So it was... And then he did a video on Kent today. It's like weird. The world is weird.
The world has gone really, really odd.
Yeah.
So we've got more time now to do these things because we're all stuck at home, right? So in theory. But what I'm finding with my stuff is that I have no motivation now because I've got time, which is stupid. Time is not my friend. Because
You schedule based on time allotments, not, an infinite amount of potential.
That infinite amount
Yeah.
of potential time just means that, okay, I've got all this extra time, I can sit and do this other thing that I was thinking of doing ages ago, which I'm going to do now, and then I get to the end of the day and go, crap, I didn't do the other thing that I was going to do because I spent all my day doing this thing, which actually wasn't that important. Because
Right.
I've completely procrastinated my way out of what I was meant to be doing. And I've done that for the
Right.
last 3 weeks. So I'm not particularly happy with myself over it.
Oh my gosh. See, I don't have that. It's like my schedule is just the same. It's actually busier because I'm still doing my same job. I'm just doing it from home. But now I have my son full time instead of part time, which is wonderful, but it's also not because it means he sees his dad less. But anyway, and I'm full time homeschooling as well, and still doing YouTube and in zero contact isolation. So my free time is just not a thing. Like I get off work at 5, homeschool till 6 while I'm cooking dinner. He goes to bed around 8 if there's still a chance he's not asleep now. And then I'm usually on a stream. It's wonderful. The people are interested in talking to me, but like by the time I go to bed, it's midnight and then I'm up again at 6 o'clock in the morning to do it all over again. Like I just don't have, there is no free time. Like I'm in the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm going to burn out, and other people are like, what do I do with my time? And I'm like, I could use a rest.
You can have some of my spare time then, Shannon, and that will make me focus more.
Yeah, that's right. Next time you're like, I don't want to do anything. Just think about the fact that I'm like, you know what? I would just like to be able to watch a TV show.
Well, it's not not doing anything. I mean, I have watched a couple of shows. I must admit, I have caught up on a couple of things, which has been handy. But it's not so much that I'm not doing anything. I'm doing things. I'm just not organizing my time now because my brain's going, you've got lots of spare time.
Right.
So instead of going, I'm going to spend 2 hours working on this project, and then I'm going to do the next thing, I'm just sitting down and like I've got some programming code I'm writing at the moment, and I spent 7 hours yesterday hacking through some bugs, which in all honesty was not practical use of my time because sitting at it for 7 hours was dumb, and by the time you've done about 3 hours, I can no longer focus on the code properly, so the other 4 hours was a complete waste of time.
Right.
So
I don't know about coding. I'm just agreeing.
It's like a lot of things. If you spend too long at something and don't take a break from it, you don't get up, you don't go and do something else, you don't go and watch something else or swap to a different task. Your brain just is in such a focus point on it that you now can't see the bigger picture. And debugging code is very hard to do when it's your own code because you're looking at it and you're going, no, that looks all right. And whereas the mistake can just be a small little translation in something, and I'm dyslexic as well, so even reading code, I can make mistakes like that. Like one of the bugs I found in my code the other day was because I swapped 2 variables around, and I'm like, well, I shouldn't have done that. That partly that was my dyslexia because I was just fixing it in my brain because I knew how it was meant to be, and it wasn't. And the other part was the thing, but actually finding the bug just meant using the correct set of debugging tools to find out where the program was going wrong. But no, I was trying to do it the hard way for over an hour because my brain was so locked in on what I was doing that I wasn't able to see the bigger picture of what I was working on. And that's the problem I'm having at the moment. Having that, it might only be a few hours a day extra time that I have to spend on things, but that's a few hours that is almost becoming wasted time and wrecking my other time. And I'm going to have to fix it. I'd be better off actually having those few extra hours doing nothing, sitting in front of the telly or something like that, and keeping the rest of my time in its normal process than trying to use that time to do other things.
Maybe you should give yourself like a forced break time, like schedule yourself a break. Like keeping a routine could be important. Like that's what I'm trying to do. Like because of my work and with my kid, like trying to keep a routine seems to be at least of some
and I think
benefit.
A routine's good for anxiety and depression anyway, because routines take away some of that pressure that you put on yourself by, the fact that I've procrastinated on a few other things because of not focusing my time properly has now meant that some of those things I don't want to do now because they had time schedules on them and I've screwed them up. So I'm like, Yeah, because I get to that point with a lot of things. It's one of my things that if I put myself in a position where now I know I'm going to struggle to get something done, I will go, well, I'm not going to do it. And that's very defeatist of me.
Screw it then.
It's like, no, well, I've already messed it up. It's too late. It doesn't matter anymore. It's like, yeah, no, you shouldn't do that. I should still get these things done because they're kind of important. Yeah. Especially as one of these things is to do with my tax, so I kind of have to do it regardless.
Yeah, do your taxes. Also, I should do my taxes. I do have to run relatively soon. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we go? I've got to go. I can hear my kid. I know he's asleep.
I think there was a few other questions in the in the chat. So I think Jay just asked what. Asked me, asked all of us, what are your guys' worst backfire that you've had to do to social anxiety? So also, what's the worst thing? I think Jay meaning the worst thing I've done because I've reacted bad to something?
Or does he mean backfire for your social anxiety or backslide maybe?
Backslide. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you mean there. For me, yeah, I'm trying to think what would be my thing that most backslid me. I do know the thing that most backslid me, but it was something I had absolutely zero control over. I had a medical thing happen to me a few years ago that when it happened, and I'm not going to go into details about what it was. When it happened, it totally undermined all my self-confidence. For a good couple of months. It took me a few months to get over what had happened because it was it played on all my personal fears and it really messed me up, and that totally backslid me to the point that I think at the time I gained within 8 months I gained over 90 pounds in weight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was how bad it was. It absolutely totally messed me up. And it took me years to lose the weight and get back over it and deal with the issues that came from that. And there's still, for my health and long-term stuff, there's still ongoing issues from that, but they're all manageable. But at the time, it totally wrecked me. It undid all the hard work I'd done to dealing with my anxieties and depression and everything. It just... I was at the point where was there even any point in going on? And I hadn't felt suicide like that since I was a teenager. And it just absolutely messed with me. And that's probably the biggest backslide I've had. But it wasn't... It was caused by a real issue that I overreacted to. And I did actually overreact to it. I mean, it wasn't as bad as that. It was bad, but it wasn't as bad as that. So...
I'm glad you came out the other side of it.
Yeah. Well, I like life. I like being here. So, and I think
I like you here.
I'm very grounded by my kids and by my family. So, even when I've had thoughts of suicide and stuff like that, it's not been so much from my own life. If my life ended, my life ends. That's the thing. I've had whatever impact I've had on this world. I've had whatever impact I'm going to have. I will have. And that's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. What I'm not fine with is negative impacts I can have on the people who are close to me. And I think taking your own life is probably the worst thing you can do to other people.
Yeah.
Because it's not about what you do. You're not there anymore. So that for you yourself, it's irrelevant. It's what you do to other people, because other people then are left with, well, what did I do wrong? How much do you ruin other people by your own action of taking your own life? And that's a horrible thing to say to anybody who is in the chat looking at this thing, because it's depression and suicide. And these are dreadful thoughts. I've been there. I've stood on the edge of a cliff wanting to take the step off the other side. And that's not a figurative cliff. It was an actual cliff. So to be honest, if you are having thoughts of depression or suicide or anything, reach out to people. If you can't get to a therapist, especially in this thing, there are lots of us online who have willing ears, and we will listen, and we will try and help, and we will try and put you in the right direction and try and get you help for other things, because no matter how bad you think life is, it can always be better. You can always work towards something that is better, and reaching out to the right people and getting the right help will actually make your life better. So, and there are always the people around you, even if you don't think there are people around you who love you and care about you and want you in their lives. They are there. Those voices in the back of our heads that fuck us up with our social anxieties are the same voices that come to you when you're thinking, oh, I don't want to be in this world anymore. And they are fucking lying to you, just like they do with social anxiety. Those little voices lie to you. People do care about you. People do want you there.
Your hair.
Sorry. Ravyn.
No, don't be sorry. That was wonderful.
Did you want to answer
I have never...
Yeah.
I mean, I think he wants to know what was the worst experience as far as social anxiety goes, and I don't know if I can necessarily, other than, it was school. Like, early teen was really, really bad. But I've never had the depression. I've never been prone to depression, or I've never been prone to suicide. So I've never had, and it's a good thing, because if otherwise I wouldn't have made it past probably 12. I had nothing good at my social life at school, nothing good going on at home. It was like there was no safe place. So it was just, eventually things got better. It always gets better.
Yeah, that's something to always remember. Things do get better. No matter how deep a pit you're in, if you reach out, if you can find somebody who can help you, who will listen to you, and people are there. People are there who will do this. Lots of us, I mean, if you're on Twitter and you're having a difficulty, send me a DM. My DMs are usually open. If I'm not sending to you, I'll eventually notice it. I apologize if it takes me a while, but I will always talk to people if they need something. If they want help, I'm there. Talk to me. I might not always be in the best state of mind myself, but I will always try and be there for other people if I can. Zane just said, Laura asked, how do you guys react to the pressure with job interviews, and how do you deal with things like that?
Yeah. Zane's my son and Laura's his girlfriend. So, and she's really, oh my God, she's bad, uncomfortable with job interviews.
Yeah.
It's just she'll try her best just to not go to them because she just can't.
I had an interview when I was in my early 20s. I've always done a lot of stuff with computers and electronics, and I've done a lot of electronic work. So I've built I haven't built computer. I built computer control systems. I haven't built the computers themselves. I could build a computer, but I've never done it. Anyway, I've done a lot of this stuff, and I had done a lot of this stuff when I was in my 20s, and I went for this job that was with a local government area where that was basically what I would be doing, and it involved a lot of electronics works. And I sat down for the interview, and they asked me a ton of electronics questions, and I could answer none of them. No, total mental blank. I couldn't remember a bloody thing throughout the entire interview. And they said at the end of it, how on earth do you couldn't answer any of our questions. One of the guys told me, how could you not answer any of our questions? We've seen your paperwork. And I go, I locked up. I just couldn't answer your questions. I tend to get, I have to focus on the interview before going to an interview so I can do it. I basically role play it in my head. So once you get experience with the type of questions you're going to get, I play those sort of questions through my head. I rehearse my answers so that when they ask me the questions, I can generally answer them straight out. If they ask me a question that's off the cuff and very different to what I've experienced, I usually say, well, I've never thought about that before. If you give me a few seconds, I'll just think about it. And if you can give yourself a breather and a bit of time in the interview, you should be able to deal with it better than if you're just trying to answer off the cuff for somebody. It's about rehearsing it. And I think this is a skill that lots of people use when they do job interviews. You kind of you do your research about the job you're going for, and then you get an idea of what the questions are going to be so that you go in prepared for the interview. The more prepared you are, the less your anxiety is going to get on top of you.
Yeah. And you don't want the mindset that this job is everything. It is so important that I get this job, because that's going to sabotage you right there.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. No, you've got to be aware that if you don't get this job, you just go for the next one. You know, I realize that jobs can be quite hard to come by, but it's not the end of your world. It's not the end of your world if you don't get this particular job, even if it's the one you really, 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 really want. That's not the end of it. And I realize that's really hard to say, because me personally, when I've gone for interviews and it's something I really wanted and it didn't get up, my anxiety just took over with rejection, and I'd spend an afternoon crying on my bed because I didn't get the job. But it's all part of how you react and cope with these things, and it's part of our mechanisms, and rehearsing and being prepared and being accepting up front that you may not get this are probably the best ways to handle an interview. Yeah. Kate asked, how do you deal with the cops after you murder yet another complete jerk and with an accident in your basement? Well, Kate, given that I've never actually done that, but now I'm a little bit worried about you.
I don't have an answer for that either. I don't know.
I wish I actually read that before.
Turn yourself in?
Yeah, I kind of wish I'd read that question before I read it out loud. Well played, Kate. I love you, Kate. Well played. You got me. And Nerdy says he wants a jerk detector so he doesn't have to waste time figuring out that one slowly.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's just the life that we all live.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. I don't know if there was any questions further back because I wasn't paying enough attention.
You monitor your chat like me.
Yeah. A lot of the earlier ones were about COVID, and I think we pretty much covered that. So, okay. Zane asked, "What's being an essential worker like with social anxiety? A social worker with social anxiety like right now?" And as I'm not an essential worker, I don't know this, so I'm guessing the question is just to you, Ravyn.
Yeah. It isn't any different than it usually is. He knows what I do. I don't deal with people. I'm in a little office all by myself. I do touch all the money in the store, though, and that should bring anxiety in its own right. Lots of hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer and gloves? Can you wear gloves?
Yeah. No, because you can't.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah, I tried. But yeah, lots of hand sanitizer.
Alright. Well, was there anyone else in the chat who wanted to ask a question? If not, okay, I'll just watch the chat for a little bit. If not, I think we'll be ending the stream so that Shannon can go and deal with her son. And Ravyn can get some sleep.
Sorry about my life circumstances.
That's fine, Shannon. We understand.
Won't go to bed, man. I know he has a tablet. I know he has that tablet. I know he does. Because I heard his little feet.
How many feet did he have then?
He's got 2. We're in a 2-bedroom apartment though, and I heard the door, and he knows that I'm here. He knows that I'm at your. It's not dumb. And
Yeah,
he heard his little feet. I know he's that tablet.
You probably think you're talking to yourself.
No, he knows. He knows what a YouTube channel is. He just didn't. Not very happy that I won't let him have one either, or a Twitch stream.
Really? He's only 9?
Yeah.
He has a tablet.
He has a tablet. Yes, he absolutely has a tablet. You need to play Roblox on something. That's another thing. I'm like, I don't know what he's doing on that tablet right now because he wouldn't got
He started his own stream.
I'd like
He's
to-
using the webcam.
Wouldn't surprise me. Would surprise me. But I would like to go check on him.
Now we've made Shannon paranoid.
Yeah, he's got YouTube on there. I don't know what he's watching. I'm feeling bad parenting vibes right now. Sitting
He's
here.
good and he's watching us.
Could be.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
Alright, I don't think we've got any questions from the channel. So, again, thank you, Ravyn, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
You have an Etsy store, don't you, Ravyn?
I do.
I don't have a link. I don't have the links on here, but Jay's in the chat. Oh, he can't do it because you're not there.
He's on his phone. I'm on the computer. If I knew where his stuff was,
He can always wander in there in his dressing gown.
Yeah. I don't
In case
know.
the chat didn't know, Jay's in his dressing gown.
He's wearing pajamas underneath. I think. I'm pretty sure. Oh no, there he is. See, he's dressed.
Oh, he got dressed. Hey, Jay. So you dumped that out. And Shannon, what have you got coming up?
I have Antibot on Thursday, and I'm going to be talking about perceptual cognition and theory of mind with Eric Hernandez on Saturday on my channel.
Oh,
Yesterday I had Matt Delahunty on.
I saw that.
What did I do before that? Oh, I had Hemet Meta on before that. I don't know. There's all my channel's called Shannon Q. There's stuff there. Maybe you'll like it. I'm really good at self promotion.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, I've already put your links in, and the links for everyone's Twitter is in the description. Follow us. That's the best way to find out when all new content's coming out for any of us, and see what Ravyn's up to. She hasn't got many followers, so go follow Ravyn.
Follow Ravyn.
Make it feel loved. And as I said earlier, if anyone in the chat has any issues, depression, anxiety, you're welcome to message me. I can't speak for the other people in the chat in the stream, but you're welcome to message me if you just need someone to talk to. Don't guarantee that I'll always be in the best frame of mind, but if you're prepared to accept that, I'm always prepared to listen to people at least. And in the meantime, everyone take care of yourselves and do your best to cope with this isolation that we've been put in. Love you all. Good night.
Be safe.